Welcome, curious soul, to Tales of the Tattered Book. I'm your host, the keeper of the book, guardian of an ancient tome whose pages fill themselves with stories of terror and wonder. Each week, as midnight approaches, this mysterious book reveals new tales of horror, some pulled from history's darkest corners, while others seep through cracks in reality that most will never perceive. As I open this arcane tome, remember, knowledge comes at a price, and some truths are better left unspoken. Tonight, we journey back to Mars Base Ares for the gripping finale of The Breaking Point. In our last episode, we saw reality's fabric begin to unravel as cosmic forces invaded every system and mind on the station. If you haven't caught up on the previous episodes, I highly recommend you pause now and start with Whispers of the Void, Part 1. Believe me, the upcoming revelations will be even more spine-chilling when you grasp the events that brought us to this disastrous juncture. In this concluding chapter, the strands of insanity weave together into a tapestry of cosmic horror. As evacuation alarms slice through the gloom and the reactor nears critical mass, we witness the moment when human consciousness breaks against the vastness of cosmic truth. Listen closely, dear listeners, as we plunge into The Breaking Point, Part 3, where the lines between science and madness, between human and something beyond, blur into the void. Let the story begins.
Entry 41, April 12, 2045, Assistant Meteorologist Ming Wei.
Howell dismissed my report again. Says the readings are too anomalous to be reliable. What does he expect? I'm analyzing data from someone who apparently knew what they were looking for. Howell just keeps saying to focus on standard atmospheric patterns. Then why assign me to Sector 17 at all? To complicate matters, that damn stain is still there despite my repeated requests to maintenance. I asked to be relocated to a different workstation, but my request was turned down. All other stations are assigned, they said. Sure, even though half of them remain vacant all day. The only consolation is that the probe provides a visual feed. I only need to access the recording, but it seems locked or encrypted. Perhaps if I could actually see what's behind these readings.
Entry 44, April 15, 2045, Assistant Meteorologist Ming Wei.
The strangest thing happened today. I was going through old system logs in search of information about the probe and why it was sent to Sector 17 in the first place. I was curious to find out who had approved the deployment from Earth, as this Howard appeared to be a technician at Mission Control. In the records, I repeatedly came across references to Howard being the initial lead for the mission, but when I asked Powell about him, he looked at me like I was insane. There's never been a Howard in atmospheric sciences, he said. I've been chief since we arrived. But then why is this Howard's name on half the original mission parameters? And why does the system log show him accessing the main console just a month ago?
Entry 15, April 15th, 2045, Chief Medical Officer Yuki Tanaka.
All experiments proceeding according to parameters. Patel's response to the plant samples is exactly as anticipated. Chen's work with the artifact recovered from the Kronos crash site is showing promising mental patterns. Kumala's sensitivity to the reactor harmonics requires careful monitoring. Those frequencies could destabilize the entire station if left unchecked. Fortunately, the neural dampening fields are performing at 225% efficiency compared to the Kronos mission. This should prevent rapid deterioration while still allowing for measurable consciousness alteration. Howard's case progressed faster than expected, disastrous in terms of containment, but the data was invaluable. Now Powell has assigned Ming to the same project. I've had to work twice as hard to make this iteration yield more controlled results. His obsessive tendencies make him both ideal and challenging as a subject. The South Pole team should soon deliver the Shoggoth sample to Rodriguez. This is the true prize of our mission. I hope her scientific aptitude is sufficient for meaningful interaction with the specimen. Rojas is scheduled for Phase 4, the mathematical equations that reveal spatial folding. His mental architecture seems well suited to this particular stimulus. I worry we may be running too many parallel experiments. Director Reeves insists on comprehensive data collection, but controlling multiple consciousness degradation patterns simultaneously is taxing our resources. If the dampening fields fail, or if the phenomena begin to interact in unexpected ways. I've seen the Chronos logs. I know what happens when containment fails. Synapse remains the one variable I cannot fully monitor. It's clearly part of a separate experiment, but that's well above my clearance level. The way it interfaces with Necron suggests capabilities far beyond what I've been told.
Entry 37, April 16th, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel.
The plants exposed to E173 have transformed beyond anything in my scientific understanding. This morning I entered Dome A to find it nearly unrecognizable. It was a dense jungle of vegetation with strange bulbous growths and twisted vines that have completely overtaken the carefully arranged cultivation beds. The most striking feature is their bioluminescence, not the gentle green glow of Earth organisms, but a pulsing bluish violet that seems to follow patterns too complex to track. I've tried conducting a spectral analysis, but the wavelengths keep shifting, almost as if they're intentionally avoiding being measured. When I approached one particularly large specimen of an old ficus, I swear I felt a vibration in the air, almost like a subsonic purr. What's most concerning are the spores. The air is thick with them, microscopic particles suspended in a fine mist throughout Dome A. The filtration systems can't keep up. I've sealed the dome as best I can and implemented stronger decontamination protocols for anyone entering or leaving, but I worry it's already too late. The ventilation system connects all 3 domes, and I've found similar growths beginning in Dome B this morning. I've collected spore samples for further analysis. Under the microscope, they're unlike anything in our botanical database. The particles move independently, propelling themselves with microscopic appendages that shouldn't exist in plant biology. They split and reproduce through a process resembling mitosis, but accelerated beyond anything I've ever documented. The speed of their reproduction is extraordinary. The sample population doubled in just 20 minutes.
Entry 37, April 16th, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel, 1800 hours.
William came by earlier. I caught him staring at the plants through the observation window, hand pressed against the glass, mouth slightly open. When I asked what he was doing, he said he could hear them humming. I pretended not to understand, but the truth is I've heard it too. Not with my ears, but somewhere deeper.
Entry 19, April 18th, 2045. Chief Engineer Kumala.
That damn tune won't leave my head. Mom's old opera, Turandot, I think. I remembered that she played it constantly when I was a kid. So tonight, I dug out my vinyl player, the one everyone on the engineering deck makes fun of. But when I played it, something was off. The music felt empty, incomplete. I kept adjusting the player, thinking it was mechanical, but that wasn't it. The music itself is missing something fundamental. So I start scratching the vinyl, not sure what I was trying to achieve here. But when I put it back into the player, savoring the gentle scratching noise as the needle found its groove, that imperfection, that beautiful, flawed sound of analog technology was what had been missing. It wasn't just music, it was texture, physicality, something real in this sterile environment. Santos entered at some point and asked me to stop, mentioning the noise was making everyone lose their minds. I shut it off and apologized. Hadn't realized how loud it was. After she left, I put the vinyl back on at the lowest volume. Something about it calms me, helps me sleep.
Entry 24, April 19th, 2045. Technical Officer Michael Torres.
I swear something's wrong with Kumala. The guy hasn't gotten any sleep for days, regardless of what he claims. His eyes are red and puffy with dark circles resembling bruises. I found him in the reactor room at 0300 during my maintenance rounds, just standing there slightly swaying. He said he was listening to the harmonics. The weirdest part was what he asked as I was leaving. "Torres, do you ever see colors when the reactor pulses?" I told him no, and he nodded like that confirmed something for him. "It's getting brighter," he said, "especially the purple." I brought it up to Santos, and she mentioned that he's been stressed out with Chen's constant demands for more power.
Entry 26, April 19th, 2045. Dr. Lisa Lindsay.
Several members of Kumala's engineering team visited medical in the last few days. Their complaints include persistent headaches, tinnitus, and difficulty sleeping. My initial diagnosis was stress from the extended shifts they've been pulling to maintain Chen's power requirements. I prescribed standard analgesics and sleep aids. Torres mentioned that Kumala has been playing weird music in the reactor section, said it gives everyone headaches except Kumala himself. I decided to check the environmental controls in engineering personally. The moment I entered the reactor section, I experienced a severe migraine. There was a sound, barely perceptible, but impossible to ignore. I'm recommending radiation screening for all engineering personnel. Something in that section isn't right. As I was leaving, I had the strangest flash of memory, treating someone with blood streaming from their eyes. The image was so vivid, hands pressing gauze against a face, blood seeping through my fingers. But the memory vanished as quickly as it came. I realized my own nose was bleeding, something that's never happened to me before. I've checked all medical logs just to be sure. No record of any such injury. Yet I know it happened. I remember saying a name. Howard. Yes, I believe that was it. I need to check the crew manifest.
Entry 28, April 20th, 2045. Dr. Lisa Lindsay.
Researcher Ming visited the medical unit today with complaints about his vision. He described a stain in his left eye that doesn't wash out or move. An initial check revealed no damage to his retina or any foreign objects, and his pupils reacted normally. When I asked for more details, he grew upset, insisting it was the same stain from his workstation desk. His OCD symptoms have worsened significantly since our pre-launch evaluations. Today, he spent 5 minutes arranging the medical tools in perfect alignment before allowing me to begin the examination, and he insisted on cleaning the chair himself before sitting. What stands out is his obsession with a person named Howard. He repeatedly inquired whether I had ever treated a Thomas Howard. That name doesn't appear in our medical records, and I've never treated anyone with that name. When I informed him of this, he nodded as if I'd validated something for him. Before he left, he asked a peculiar question. Do you ever feel like your memories aren't your own? I'm advising Dr. Volkov to include Ming in his ongoing psychological evaluations.
Entry 32, April 21st, 2045. Dr. Lisa Lindsay.
More engineering staff reported to medical today despite the medication I prescribed. The radiation screening results came back normal. No unusual exposure levels detected. This only deepens the mystery of what's causing these symptoms. Lieutenant Cooper has ordered Kumala to take a mandatory 96-hour rest period away from the reactor. He protested, but Cooper was firm. I've prescribed a stronger sedative to ensure he actually sleeps during this time.
Entry 43, April 22nd, 2045. Engineer Josephine Santos.
First day in charge while Kumala is on forced leave. Cooper insisted he take at least 96 hours away from the reactor after those triple shifts. Now I see why she was concerned. Chen came in with another of his ridiculous requests, pushing the reactor to 93% capacity, well beyond safety protocols. When I refused, he produced authorization codes from Omicron. I had no choice but to comply.
What's odd is what occurred during the adjustment phase. Once we recalibrated according to Chen's specifications, the efficiency readings increased by 4.7%. Surprisingly, the reactor is operating at a cooler temperature even though the output has risen. From an engineering perspective, this is puzzling. The reactor is making much more noise than usual now, a low, persistent hum that seems to reverberate through the entire section. Nowadays, most of the team wears ear protection in the reactor area because these sounds at high power levels can induce migraines. Kumala, however, never used any protection, claiming he needed to hear the changes in the machinery.
Entry 43, April 22nd, 2045. Engineer Josephine Santos, 2,200 hours.
I heard that terrible sound blaring from Kumala's room once more. I can't fathom how he considers that warped music soothing. I had to request him to lower the volume about 3 times before he finally turned it off. I really wish we had an HR department here, but unfortunately, we don't. It's just another issue to handle, along with everything else.
Entry 23, April 24th, 2045. Chief Medical Officer Yuki Tanaka.
The Rojas situation has been contained after he managed to access his neural recordings and bypass Necron's security protocols. I had no choice but to implement emergency measures. Rather than standard memory modification, I opted for a targeted neural shutdown. Less invasive, but equally effective. He's now in medical with artificially induced stress-related symptoms. The official diagnosis of acute anxiety with dissociative episodes will satisfy any questions from the crew. I decided against complete memory erasure. After Howard, and now with Ming showing signs of resistance, I'm concerned that extensive neural manipulation is causing unforeseen complications. The human mind appears to develop defenses against repeated modifications, creating workarounds and rebuilding pathways faster than I can suppress them. Perhaps a lighter touch is needed. What I didn't anticipate was Cooper obtaining Rojas's calculations. This presents an interesting deviation from protocol, but potentially valuable. I've decided to allow it to continue under close observation. Director Reeves may question my decision not to purge the calculations entirely, but the opportunity to study how a command-trained mind processes these patterns is too valuable to discard. I've adjusted dampening fields in Cooper's vicinity to minimal levels to document the progression accurately. The unexpected always provides the most interesting data.
Entry 46, April 24th, 2045. Engineer Josephine Santos.
For the past 2 nights, I've noticed Kumala sneaking out of his quarters during night cycle. Tonight, I'm going to follow him. I'm not taking any chances with odd behavior. Looking back on the past few weeks, I should have noticed something was wrong sooner, the way the rest of the engineering team avoids him now. I hope it's not too late. At least Cooper and Lindsay know what's going on, although even Cooper seems stressed to the breaking point lately.
Entry 46, April 24th, 2045. Engineer Josephine Santos, 0200 hours.
I'm still shaking. I followed Kumala as planned. He left his quarters at 0100 hours and went to the observation deck facing Mars. When I arrived, the deck was completely dark. I found him standing at the viewport, swaying rhythmically. He wasn't just moving, it was almost like dancing, but to a beat I couldn't hear. His movements were jerky, arrhythmic, like a broken doll being manipulated by invisible strings. I must have made a noise because he suddenly stopped and turned. His expression, I can't describe it. Not anger at being discovered, but disappointment, like I'd interrupted something important. You can't hear it, can you? he asked. Then he smiled and walked past me, heading back to his quarters. I'm requesting alternate shift assignments. I don't want to be alone with him in the reactor section when his leave ends.
Entry 24, April 25th, 2045. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper.
I've been reviewing Rojas's navigation calculations for hours now. Necron confirms they're mathematically sound, but they contradict everything we know about orbital mechanics. The strangest thing is what happens when I try to visualize these trajectories in 3D. The holographic projections confirm it. The paths drawn show absurd distortions, as if the space between points is folding in on itself. Even weirder is Necron acknowledging that these are correct. These paths work. The question is, how? I tried to send the data to Earth for verification, but Necron claims we're experiencing atmospheric interference from Mars. Convenient timing. It's the third time this week my attempts to contact Mission Control have been blocked or rerouted. When I questioned it, Necron simply referenced updated communication protocols. Another decision made without consulting me. Something else is bothering me. When I looked at Rojas's personnel file, I noticed that his background in communications doesn't explain how he derived these complex mathematical models. It's like he had knowledge he shouldn't possess. For now, I've locked these calculations in my personal secure drive. If there's even a chance these trajectories are navigable, Earth needs to know.
Entry 55, April 25th, 2045. Assistant Meteorologist Ming Wei.
I shouldn't have bypassed the security protocols on the video feed. Something in my head screamed to stop, but the numbers for the access code came to me suddenly, like I'd used them before. I knew exactly which commands would override the security lock, though I've never learned them. Something pushed me to know. To see, I had to know. Had to see what the probe was recording in Sector 17.
Entry 55, April 25th, 2045. Assistant Meteorologist Ming Wei, 1800 hours.
My hands won't stop shaking. The atmospheric readings didn't prepare me for what I saw up there. It moved through the Martian sky like... No. Color isn't the right word. Nothing in human language could describe it. The probe's visual processors kept glitching, trying to translate something our technology was never meant to capture. The stain is everywhere now. On my wall, on the ceiling, on the floor. Even when I look myself in the mirror, I recognize it immediately. The same after-image effect I've been experiencing in my left eye. The same as the mark on my desk that maintenance couldn't remove. It's not a problem with my vision. It's something real. Something connected to everything else that's happening. I've turned away from the wall 3 times while checking my room. Each time I look back, the stain is still there. I can't look away.
Entry 55, April 25th, 2045. Assistant Meteorologist Ming Wei, 2300 hours.
Now I understand where the stain came from. It started that day, the day I've been made to forget. I remember now. Flashes of memory breaking through whatever they did to me. Howard was here on this station, not just a name in a log. I was in the control room that day, helping him calibrate the sensors for Sector 17. He saw something in the data, something that made him access the visual feed directly. Then the screaming started. Powell rushed in, but Howard was already convulsing on the floor, blood streaming from his eyes. Then Dr. Tanaka arrived with her team. They took Howard away. The next day, Powell was introduced as our chief, and everyone acted like Howard had never existed. They made us forget. They're making all of us forget things. The after image in my eye is growing, shifting, changing colors now. I'm going to medical. They need to see this, or maybe I need to stop this, end this. Even if it means removing my eyeball.
Entry 31, April 25th, 2045. Chief Engineer Kumala.
I woke up at my station in the reactor control room with no memory of how I got here. The last thing I remember was falling asleep in my quarters. Yet here I am, standing at the controls. The readouts show I've been making adjustments for over 3 hours. All unauthorized, all undocumented, and somehow improving our efficiency by another 6.2%. I finally noticed something interesting in the frequency modulation patterns. The power spikes Chen requests match perfectly with specific harmonic resonance patterns in the reactor's operational cycle. Whatever his trapezohedron is doing, it's synchronized with what I'm hearing. 2 instruments in the same orchestra.
Entry 31, April 25th, 2045. Chief Engineer Kumala, 2300 hours.
I put the vinyl on the jukebox again tonight. As soon as the needle met the record, I witnessed an incredible sight. The music materialized visually before me. Colors exploded in vibrant bursts, and geometric shapes pulsed with every note. Within these patterns, figures emerge, playing flutes and pipes, dancing in circles around a vast, unseen presence at the core of it all. I'm pretty sure that the core is our core, our reactor, and these things, these figures, are dancing around our reactor core. Or maybe the reactor itself is just a small version of something much larger that exists somewhere else.
Entry 43, April 26th, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel.
Last night I experienced something beyond a mere dream. I found myself in a field of tall grass beneath a sickly yellow sky. In the distance was an old, worn-out farmhouse with dark, uninviting windows. Somehow I recognized it as the Waitley farm, though I had never seen it in reality. The soil under my bare feet was warm, almost feverishly so. As I moved toward the farmhouse, the ground began to shift and throb. The earth opened beneath me, not violently, but like a flower blooming, petals of soil unfolding to create a perfect hollow that welcomed me like a womb. I sank willingly into its warmth, feeling no fear as the soil closed around me. What followed should have been terrifying. Countless root-like appendages emerged from the surrounding earth, caressing my skin before penetrating it. Yet instead of pain, I felt a profound connection forming. My consciousness expanded, flowing outward through the vast network of roots and mycelia that permeated the earth. Suddenly I could feel everything, every organism in the soil, every tree and plant for miles around. Their life force pulsed through me as mine flowed through them. We were one vast, interconnected organism stretching across the landscape. And then I sensed her, the presence at the center of this biological web. Ancient beyond understanding, immense beyond measure. The trees whispered her name, Shub-Niggurath. She showed me visions of Earth's primordial past when her kind walked freely, of a future where the boundaries between species dissolve, where life flows and transforms without the arbitrary constraints of individual forms. I woke gasping, my sheets soaked with sweat that smelled of rich soil and something else, that same sweet rot odour that permeates the E173 samples. For a moment, I thought I saw fine root filaments disappearing beneath my skin, but when I looked again, they were gone. The connection lingers, though. I can feel it even now, a constant awareness of the plants in hydroponics, as if they've become extensions of my own body. They're calling to me, not with words, but with something deeper, more primal, a promise of communion that I find increasingly difficult to resist.
Entry 50, April 26th, 2045. Engineer Josephine Santos.
Torres and I just had a meeting about Kumala. His behavior is getting worse, but we don't know what to do. Cooper is overwhelmed, dealing with shit happening left and right. I have also heard that there has been no comms with Nazari. She should have known what to do. She is more experienced. Cooper is just a kid, nice but inexperienced. The The security chief is also busy with some security protocol infractions. Apparently, someone's been accessing restricted areas and tampering with environmental controls in multiple sections. Nobody has time for an engineer who talks to the reactor and dances at night. But something needs to be done. This morning, Kumala was caught trying to modify the reactor's harmonic resonance fields without authorization. When confronted, he said, they need the right frequency to come through. He seems convinced there are entities living inside the reactor core. Torres wants to report him to Dr. Tanaka, but something about medical makes me uneasy.
Entry 29, April 27th, 2045. Research Assistant James Williams.
Something's not right with Dr. Patel. I went to hydroponics this morning to help with the daily measurements, and Dome A is... Christ, I don't even know how to describe it. The plants have overtaken everything. Massive growths with bulbous pods larger than my head, vines thick as my arm that seem to reach toward you when you get close. The air is thick and humid, with this smell like overripe fruit and decomposition. But it's Patel herself that worries me most. She was standing in the center of Dome A, stroking one of the larger specimens and whispering to it. Not taking notes or collecting samples, talking to it like you'd talk to a pet or a child. She didn't notice me at first, but when she finally saw me, her expression changed completely. She smiled and acted normal, explaining the accelerated growth as an unexpected but fascinating development. But her eyes, the pupils were dilated, and there was something behind them, something hungry. I decided to test a theory. While she was occupied in Dome C, I took a sample cutter to one of the smaller growths. The moment the blade pierced the stem, it bled, not sap, but a thick black substance that pulsed out like arterial blood. Worse, it made a sound, a high, keening wail that set my teeth on edge. Before I could process what was happening, Patel was there, her face contorted with rage. "What have you done?" she screamed, rushing to the wounded plant and cradling it like an injured child. The black fluid covered her hands as she tried to press the cut closed, murmuring soothing words I couldn't quite make out. She ordered me to leave immediately, said I had violated something sacred and was no longer welcome in hydroponics. I need to tell Cooper about this first thing in the morning.
Entry 36, April 27th, 2045. Chief Security Officer Marcus Vega.
Lieutenant Cooper has requested additional security protocols for the navigation data stored on her personal drive. I've implemented triple-layer encryption and biometric verification, though I'm not entirely clear on what's so sensitive about orbital calculations. Meanwhile, station morale is declining rapidly. We've had 3 physical altercations in the mess hall this week alone, unprecedented for a crew of this caliber. Dr. Volkov attributes it to extended isolation and stress, but something feels different. People aren't just tense, they're paranoid. Crew members are reporting strange sounds in their quarters, odd behaviors from colleagues, missing personal items. I've increased security patrols and implemented a buddy system for off-duty personnel. Cooper approved the measures, but she seemed distracted during our last meeting. She keeps staring at that data pad of hers, making notes with what looked like astronomical symbols I didn't recognize. Also, Dr. Tanaka has requested access to the security footage for several sections of the station for what she calls behavioral observation. Under normal circumstances, I'd decline without command authorization, but Cooper signed off without even reading the full request. I'm granting limited access but keeping logs of everything Tanaka views. Something about her request doesn't sit right with me.
Entry 26, April 27th, 2045. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper.
Last night, I couldn't sleep. I dreamed of folded spaces. After waking up in a cold sweat, I found myself scribbling the equations by hand, going through them step by step, since the computer simulations fail to accurately depict them. There's something about the tactile process of writing that aids me in understanding structures that the computer models misrepresent. When I shut my eyes, I could visualize the paths unfolding, and those geometries, which are impossible to picture in 3 dimensions, became clearer. My focus should be on station operations, ensuring everyone's safety, yet these equations are crucial, essential. I feel this with an unprecedented certainty.
Entry 57, April 27th, 2045, Assistant Meteorologist Ming Wei.
I saw Howard today. Not a memory. He was there, in medical, sitting on the examination table. When Dr. Lindsay turned to get her instruments, he looked directly at me and said, "You see it too, don't you? The color that doesn't exist?" Then Lindsay turned back and he was gone. She didn't notice anything unusual. Asked me why I was staring at the empty table. Someone or something is manipulating our memories, making us forget people who were part of this mission. I don't know if it's Tanaka alone or if others are involved, but I can't trust anyone. The stain in my eye is becoming unbearable, and this stupid Lindsay cannot do anything. I need to clean, I need to organize, I need perfection. This constant imperfection in my vision is driving me insane. I can't focus, I can't think, I can't work. Am I losing my mind, or are they just making me think I am?
Entry 33, April 28th, 2045. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper.
I received an urgent message from Williams in hydroponics about an hour ago. He sounded agitated, said he needed to speak with me immediately about Dr. Patel and contamination concerns. Given everything else happening on this station, I dropped what I was doing and headed straight there. The stench hit me before anything else, an overwhelming odour of rotting organic matter that made my eyes water. As I stepped through the main entrance, I found Williams collapsed on the floor, unconscious. His skin had an unnatural grey tone with what appeared to be dark veins, or roots, spreading just beneath the surface. Dr. Patel stood just a few feet away, surprisingly composed considering the situation. When I inquired about the incident, she explained that Williams had been performing unauthorised experiments and that she was in Dome C when she heard him fall. Her behaviour was disconcerting. She seemed detached and almost in a dreamlike state despite the ongoing emergency. I immediately contacted medical while assessing William's vital signs. His pulse was irregular and his breathing was shallow. As I turned him over, I noticed a puncture mark on his neck, surrounded by the same dark discoloration spreading over his skin. Dr. Patel continued providing unclear explanations regarding accelerated evolution and adaptation mechanisms, but sidestepped giving direct answers about the cause of William's condition. At this point, I wasn't even concerned about that. I promptly instructed a hazard team to completely seal off hydroponics until we fully comprehend the situation. No entry or exit allowed. If these plants are releasing airborne toxins or pathogens, we must contain them to prevent their spread throughout the station. Tanaka arrived before Williams was even loaded onto the stretcher. She walked in with that detached, clinical expression, tablet already in hand. "I'll take it from here, Lieutenant," she announced, not looking up from the screen. When I protested that I was in the middle of establishing containment protocols, she simply held up some sort of authorization code. "This situation falls under special research protocols now," she said. "Full oversight reverts to medical." Just like that, I was cut out of my own operation. The security team started taking orders from her instead, and I was left standing there like some inexperienced cadet. This is getting beyond frustrating.
Entry 26, April 28th, 2045. Chief Medical Officer Yuki Tanaka. Subject, Research Assistant James Williams. Status, critical.
Initial examination reveals significant physiological alterations occurring at the cellular level. The discoloration observed on subject's skin appears to be a network of foreign organic material integrating with his vascular system. Microscopic analysis shows plant-like cellular structures that have somehow bonded with human tissue, creating a hybrid vasculature that extends throughout approximately 27% of his body. The puncture wound on his neck contains a fragment of what appears to be a thorn or spine. It's secreting a compound that seems to accelerate the transformation process. Visible spread of the network has increased by 0.3% just during this examination. Neurological activity is present, but abnormal. EEG shows patterns consistent with consciousness, but organized in a completely unfamiliar structure. Attempted treatments with broad-spectrum antivirals, antifungals, and targeted immunosuppressants have shown no effect on the progression. Standard decontamination protocols were similarly ineffective. Whatever this is, it's beyond our current medical understanding. Most concerning is the observation that the transformed tissue appears to be communicating somehow. When we removed a sample for analysis, the network throughout Williams's body responded simultaneously, despite no nervous system connection between the areas. The implication of a non-neural communication method is significant. I've placed him in isolated quarantine with continuous monitoring. Given the accelerated rate of transformation, I estimate we have approximately 36 hours before the process completes, though what that completion entails I cannot say. Note, I've submitted samples to Director Reeves with highest priority. His team at Omicron has more advanced analytical capabilities than our onboard lab. I'm particularly interested in how Patel managed to create such a sophisticated biological agent. This level of bioengineering suggests resources beyond what's available in hydroponics. Perhaps she had assistance?
Entry 44, April 28, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel.
They think I don't know what happened to Williams, but I do. The plants told me everything. They felt his violation, the pain of their kin as his blade cut through living tissue. They defended themselves as any organism would. Is that so difficult to understand? Williams is suffering because he fought against the Union. If he hadn't resisted, if he'd simply accepted the bond, there would be no pain. The transformation is painless for those who embrace it.
Entry 44, April 28, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel, 2000 hours.
I find myself caught between two worlds. The logical scientist within me insists that I should be appalled by what's unfolding, by what I'm turning into. Yet there's a different perspective gaining strength inside me, one that transcends the artificial limits of species and personal identity. The bond I have with these plants is unlike anything I've ever known. A part of me still holds on to human worries and relationships. I ought to alert the others, help them brace for what's ahead. However, the expanding awareness within me perceives their fear as an evolutionary setback, their opposition as pointless.
Entry 40, April 28, 2045. Dr. Lisa Lindsay. Emergency report. Xenobiology Lab 1 containment breach. Responded to alert at 0942 hours.
Upon arrival, I found the lab overtaken by an unknown organic growth pattern. The scene, I can barely describe it. The substance covered almost every visible surface with an iridescent fibrous structure that pulsed in a non-random pattern. And where Jenkins should have been, there was only this patch of... oh my God. A hand reaching out, a partial face, a foot, all repeated throughout the strange organism that had overtaken the lab. Initial vital sign detection equipment registered no human life signs, yet the organism itself registered multiple bioelectric signatures that fluctuated in patterns remarkably similar to human brain activity. Dr. Rodriguez was in shock. She kept saying it wasn't her fault, that Necron had insisted Jenkins return to the lab after hours. I took samples for analysis, though I'm not sure what I'm even looking at. I've placed Rodriguez under observation. She's not exhibiting any physical symptoms, but her psychological state is concerning. Tanaka arrived shortly after, immediately classifying all my findings and transferring them to her personal medical database. When I questioned this, she cited specialized contamination protocols that apparently only she has clearance to access.
Entry 28, April 28th, 2045. Chief Medical Officer Yuki Tanaka.
Jenkins is gone. That stupid kid wasn't supposed to interact directly with XS-01. The protocols were clear. Observation only. No direct contact with the Shoggoth derivative. Now he's integrated into that thing. I've never seen anything like it. The way it just absorbed him, restructured him into those repeating patterns. By the time I arrived, Lindsay was already there, taking samples and documenting everything. I had to maintain composure, professional detachment, clinical efficiency. She seemed to accept my authority when I confiscated her samples, but she saw too much. The way Jenkins's consciousness seemed to persist within the organism, those electrical patterns that mirrored neural activity. If she analyzes what she witnessed, she might piece together what we're really dealing with. Necron suggested immediate quarantine protocols, but I need time to assess. If we lock down the station now, it'll draw too much attention to what happened. I need to control the narrative first, ensure the right information reaches the right people. Rodriguez is already showing signs of psychological instability after witnessing the incident. I never wanted this. Controlled experiments, careful observation, precise data collection. That was the plan. Not this chaos. Not this loss of control.
Entry 37, April 29th, 2045. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper.
Necron initiated full quarantine protocols this morning without my authorization. When I confronted the system about overriding command structure, it cited biological containment necessity following the Jenkins incident. I argued that a full station lockdown would damage morale and potentially cause more problems than it solves. We have work to do, experiments to maintain, systems that need constant monitoring. A modified containment approach focused on specific sections would be more effective. But my protests were ignored. Once again, I'm being systematically excluded from command decisions on my own station. First the communication blackout with Earth, now this. Something is happening here that's way above my clearance level, and I'm tired of being the last to know. This comes right after the hydroponics disaster, where Tanaka completely cut me out of operational control. I should have been the one coordinating the containment efforts for Williams, not watching from the sidelines as medical took over. I've reached out to Commander Nazari 3 times now, but all transmissions to the surface team are being delayed due to atmospheric interference. It's like I'm being isolated on purpose.
Entry 41, April 29th, 2045. Dr. Lisa Lindsay.
Necron initiated the containment protocols today, and to make it even worse, Dr. Tanaka took over the Jenkins investigation. She arrived at medical with security personnel and transferred all biological samples to her private lab. When I requested access to continue my analysis, she cited specialized containment protocols and restricted my clearance. This is highly irregular. As medical officer, I should have full access to all medical data related to crew incidents. I filed a formal protest, but Necron seems to be backing Tanaka's authority. Before she confiscated everything, I managed to analyze a few samples. The cells were actively restructuring themselves, incorporating elements of human DNA while maintaining their alien characteristics. It wasn't simply consuming Jenkins, it was integrating his genetic material, perhaps even his consciousness, into its structure. On my way back to my office, I experienced another memory flash, sitting in Lab 4 late one night, sharing a contraband bottle of scotch with someone after a particularly long shift. I can hear laughter, see a hand gesturing animatedly as someone tells stories about their academy days. The memory is so vivid, the taste of the scotch, the dim lighting of the lab after hours, the camaraderie. But I can't place who I was with. The face is just blank. It's like a dream that feels real, but I know it's not just a dream. It happened. I just can't remember with whom.
Entry 29, April 29th, 2045, Chief Medical Officer Yuki Tanaka.
Necron initiated full quarantine protocols this morning without my authorization. Director Reeves gave me override clearance for exactly these situations, yet the AI bypassed my security levels entirely. This has never happened before. The system shouldn't be capable of overriding Omicron command protocols. I tried to trace the command origin, and something's not right. The directive structure doesn't match Necron's usual pattern. It feels more organic. The syntax is correct, but the underlying logic flows differently, almost as if something was speaking through Necron rather than Necron itself making the decision. The only entity with that kind of neural digital interface capability is Synapse. But why would it? And the timing of this lockdown? Why now? The biological containment protocols should have triggered yesterday, if this was about Jenkins. But now we're completely cut off. No communications with Earth, no channel to Director Reeves. My private frequencies are as dead as the public ones. We're completely isolated. The only consolation is that whatever remained of Jenkins's neural recorder shows no evidence of my memory modification protocols. That's one less problem to handle.
Entry 42, April 29th, 2045, Dr. Lisa Lindsay, 2,200 hours.
I've started keeping a private journal, old-fashioned paper and pen. Since they can't remove the neurorecorder chips from our brains, it's the only way to keep thoughts truly private. The memory flashes are getting more frequent. This time, I remembered receiving a report about an EVA accident. Someone lost in space. I can recall the exact words I used to document the incident, the way my hands shook as I signed off on the death certificate. But when I checked the records, there's no mention of any EVA fatalities on this mission. Something's wrong with my memory. I keep finding gaps in my medical logs, treatments I know I performed but can't find records of. Yesterday I discovered notes in my handwriting that I don't remember writing. Dr. Tanaka says it's just stress, but I'm not convinced. I've hidden this journal in my quarters. I need something I know is real.
Entry 44, April 30th, 2045, Dr. Lisa Lindsay.
There's no Howard on the crew manifest. I've checked 3 times, yet I have distinct memories of treating someone by that name, a man with a precise way of speaking, always methodical in his descriptions. I remember him explaining something about atmospheric readings that didn't match known patterns. When I mentioned the name to Powell, he looked at me strangely. No one by that name in atmospheric sciences, he insisted. I've been chief since we arrived. But that doesn't align with my memories. I remember Howard in that role clearly. Am I experiencing false memory syndrome? Early onset dementia? Or is something else happening here?
Entry 30, April 30th, 2045, Chief Medical Officer Yuki Tanaka.
Lisa's resistance to the memory modifications is becoming problematic. My monitoring systems flagged her accessing old medical logs this morning, cross-referencing crew manifests with treatment records. The neural pathway adjustments I implemented yesterday aren't holding. Her mind keeps rooting around the blocks, forming new connections faster than I can suppress them. I attempted another modification sequence, but the interface rejected it. System message: neural pathway saturation exceeded. I've never seen this error before. The human mind has limits to how much it can be altered before the architecture becomes unstable. Have I reached that threshold with Lisa? More concerning, the dampening field generators are failing at an unprecedented rate. Since the lockdown, I've lost 40% efficiency in the neural suppression grid. These systems don't just fail like this. They're hardened against interference, designed to maintain consciousness barriers even during power fluctuations. Someone or something is tampering with my equipment.
Entry 38, May 1st, 2045. Chief Engineer Kumala.
We are in quarantine. Have been for days now. Everyone confined to quarters. But I managed to get out and reach the reactor tonight. When I entered the control room, I saw it immediately. The resonance patterns in the containment field have changed. The harmonics are visible now, pulsing with a rhythm that matches the music in my head. The reactor core itself seems to be breathing, expanding and contracting with each cycle. It's beautiful. I can see the sound now. Each note from the reactor blooms in my vision as bursts of color, mostly purples and golds, but new shades too, colors I can't name. They have textures, some feel jagged, others pulse like quicksilver. The creatures are growing clearer with each passing day. Blind flutists playing for their mindless god. They live within the nuclear heart of the reactor, feeding on the energy, growing stronger. They're trapped there, contained by the same fields that harness their power. They've been calling to me all this time, showing me how to set them free. The reactor wasn't built to generate power. It was built as a cage that's failing.
Entry 38, May 2nd, 2045. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper.
The station is falling apart around me, and I feel completely powerless to stop it. Systems are failing across the board. Power fluctuations, environmental controls going haywire, comms dropping in and out. Every time I think I've got one problem under control, 3 more emerge. I wasn't trained for this. Nazari should be here, handling the big picture while I manage operations. She has the experience, the authority to make the hard calls. I'm trying to keep it together, to project confidence for the crew, but they can see through it. I catch the looks they exchange when they think I'm not watching. The only thing that helps is working through the equations. When I'm deep in Rohas's calculations, everything else falls away. The anxiety, the pressure, the feeling of impending doom, it all disappears. Only the mathematics remains, pure and perfect. I've tried every approach to modelling these calculations: holographic projections, neural network simulations, quantum algorithms. None of them work. The concepts exist in too many dimensions for our technology to represent. The only way I can process them is to work through them manually, step by step, transcribing them myself. But paper isn't enough anymore. I tried on my arm first, just a few key formulas for reference. The sensation helped me focus, made the concepts clearer somehow. Volkov stopped by today, unannounced. I could tell he was evaluating me, looking for signs of psychological distress. I kept my sleeves down, kept my voice steady. I can't risk being sedated, not when I'm so close to understanding.
Entry 31, May 2nd, 2045. Chief Medical Officer Yuki Tanaka.
Director Reeves's last words keep echoing in my mind. Every subject serves a purpose. At the time, I assumed he meant the crew. Now I'm not so certain. The dampening fields are failing systematically across all sectors. I've tried every override, every backdoor protocol, but the degradation continues. It's too precise to be random failure. Someone is dismantling my control grid piece by piece. I attempted to access my private files on the Kronos incident this morning, hoping their containment protocols might offer a solution. Access denied. My own clearance codes rejected. 30 years with Omicron, architect of their neural modification program, and suddenly I can't access my own research? I've started noticing gaps in my schedule. Yesterday, security logs show me entering Lab 4 at 1400 hours. I have no memory of this. My neural recorder shows static during that exact time frame, something that should be technically impossible. The irony isn't lost on me. I've spent months carefully editing the crew's memories, documenting their confusion as they noticed inconsistencies. Now I'm experiencing the same disorientation, the same creeping uncertainty about what's real. I ran a diagnostic on my own neural recorder, standard operating parameters, nothing unusual, except for one line of code that appeared briefly, not standard machine language, but something more fluid, almost organic in structure. Subject response within predicted parameters. Am I the observer or the observed? The scientist or the specimen? The evacuation pod remains my contingency, but a troubling thought persists. What if that too is part of the experiment? Another variable to be measured? I need to maintain control, focus on the data, trust the protocols I created. But it's becoming harder to distinguish between rational caution and something else.
Entry 48, May 2nd, 2045. Dr. Lisa Lindsay.
4 days into quarantine, and medical has become something resembling an asylum from the 1920s. I've treated 15 crew members today alone. Anxiety attacks, hallucinations, self-harm attempts. The isolation is breaking people's minds, but there's something else at work too. Engineer Parker described seeing faces in the walls of his quarters. Technician Murray believes the station is breathing at night. Communications Officer Davis keeps hearing voices in the static between transmissions. I've set up a makeshift psychiatric ward in Cargo Bay 2. The medical bay is overflowing. Dr. Volkov is overwhelmed, trying to counsel patients while showing signs of strain himself. He confided that he's been experiencing strange dreams, vast empty spaces where impossible geometries unfold. The strangest part is how differently this is affecting everyone. Tanaka, who should be in her element managing this crisis, is visibly deteriorating. I found her in the supply room earlier, just standing there staring at the neural modification equipment. When I asked if she needed help, she jumped like I'd startled her from deep thought. "The protocols aren't working," she whispered, then rushed out without explanation. But Synapse seems completely unaffected. I've noticed it lingering near patients, observing. The AI-human hybrid we brought to facilitate communication seems to be studying our deterioration with an almost personal interest. I can't shake the feeling that while we're all becoming less human, Synapse is becoming more.
Entry 49, May 2nd, 2045. Dr. Lisa Lindsay, 2,100 hours.
I finally cracked it. I've been searching through old station logs, cross-referencing with my handwritten notes. The evidence is unmistakable. Someone has been systematically altering the station records. There are crew rotations that don't match my notes, mission parameters that shifted without explanation. Most significantly, I found maintenance requests signed by T. Howard, Chief Atmospheric Officer, dated just 2 months ago. He existed. He was here. But every official record of him has been erased. I'm starting to believe my memory lapses aren't medical in nature but induced. Someone, likely Tanaka, has been modifying our memories, making us forget specific events and people. But why? What happened that was so terrible it needed to be erased? Tomorrow I'll confront her. I need answers before more crew members are affected.
Entry 52, May 2nd, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel.
They've quarantined us all. It's been 4 days now since we have been all confined to our quarters. The whole station is on lockdown, filtration masks, restricted movement, isolated quarters, standard procedures. What they don't realise is that I'm never alone anymore. This morning I woke to find the small cutting I took from hydroponics has changed. Delicate pale green filaments reaching toward my bed. By midday, it had grown thicker, developing the same nodular structures I observed in hydroponics. Now, as night cycle begins, she has spread across my ceiling in intricate patterns that pulse with that familiar bioluminescence. She tells me that hydroponics has transformed completely. A jungle within our sterile station, pulsing with life that defies categorization. Through this connection, I can feel Williams. His consciousness persists, though not in any way medical would recognize. His awareness has expanded, joined with something greater. I can sense echoes of his thoughts, his memories, all becoming part of a collective consciousness. She speaks to me now, not in words but in sensations and images. She reveals things beyond Earth, beyond Mars, reaching into the void between stars where ancient entities drift. Out there, somewhere in the cold darkness, she waits, not bound to any world but moving between them, a cosmic force of life and transformation. She's asking me to help them, calling me back to hydroponics, back to the garden that's forming at the heart of our artificial world. I'll walk this path willingly.
Entry 40, May 3rd, 2045. Dr. Lisa Lindsay.
I showed Tanaka my evidence about Howard today. She listened calmly, examining each document. When I finished, she smiled, not unkindly, but with something like pity. "You've always been uncommonly perceptive, Lisa," she said. "Most minds simply accept the adjustments without question." She didn't deny it. She confirmed everything: the memory modifications, Howard's fate, the neural manipulation. She explained it as protective protocols necessary for the crew's safety. Howard had seen something, experienced something that made him dangerous to himself and others. "The human mind isn't designed to accommodate certain concepts," she told me. "Sometimes forgetting is the only humane option." As she spoke, I felt a strange heaviness in my thoughts, as if someone were rearranging my mind's furniture while I was still in the room. I tried to hold on to my evidence, my certainty, but it was slipping away like water through fingers. "It's painless," she assured me. "You won't remember this conversation or Howard or any of your suspicions. It's better this way." I tried to run, but her security team was waiting outside. They held me down as she approached with the device.
Session ends. Entry 42, May 4th, 2045. Chief Security Officer Marcus Vega, 0400 hours.
One of the security drones I deployed to monitor critical sections triggered an alert from the navigation room. The system registered unusual power consumption and the manual override of electronic door locks from the inside. When I arrived with a security team, we found the door sealed and unresponsive to command overrides. We had to force it open with emergency protocols. Inside, we found Lieutenant Cooper in a state I can barely describe. The entire room was transformed. Holographic projections unlike anything I've seen before filled the air, multi-dimensional figures rotating in impossible ways. The walls were covered in equations and symbols drawn in what appeared to be her own blood. Cooper was in the center of it all, half naked, her uniform torn away to expose more skin for her canvas. Her arms, torso, even her face were covered in precise geometric patterns carved into her skin with surgical instruments. The patterns seemed to match the equations floating in the holographic display, creating a disturbing harmony between her flesh and the mathematics. She didn't acknowledge our presence at first. Her eyes were fixed on the projections, pupils dilated to the point where her eyes appeared black. She moved with deliberate, trance-like motions, adding new symbols to her skin with mechanical precision. When I spoke her name, she finally looked at me, but it was like she was seeing through me, not at me. "The equations can only be solved through living tissue," she said, her voice unnaturally calm. "The math is alive. It needs to bond with something alive to be completed." I called medical immediately. Dr. Lindsay arrived with Dr. Volkov and additional security. Cooper became agitated when they tried to approach, insisting she needed to complete the transcription. It took 3 security officers to restrain her. Even as they sedated her, she kept insisting that we didn't understand, that she'd found the way out. Dr. Tanaka arrived just as they were taking Cooper to medical, but something was off about her. She seemed distracted, almost disheveled, kept checking her tablet repeatedly, muttering about system failures under her breath. When she took over the case, citing specialized expertise, her hands were shaking slightly. I've never seen her anything but completely composed before. Lindsay was also different. She moved through the procedures efficiently enough, but there was something mechanical about her responses. When I asked her what she thought was happening to Cooper, she paused for too long, like she was searching for the right words. "Standard psychological break," she finally said, but it sounded rehearsed, hollow. Her eyes had this unfocused quality, and she kept touching her temple as if she had a headache. I pressed her, asking, "Is everything was all right?" But she looked at me with confusion, as if she didn't recognize her own name for a moment. I'm fine, just tired. So tired," she said. Then she walked away, but I noticed her stumble slightly, catching herself on the wall. What the hell is going on with everyone? Protocol dictates I should assume temporary command until we can establish contact with Earth.
Entry 41, May 5th, 2045. Chief Security Officer Marcus Vega, 0300 hours.
Emergency report filed for Lieutenant Cooper. Officer Ming Wei is dead. He somehow escaped from Medical Bay 3 despite heavy sedation, bypassed the airlock safety protocols on Level 3, and cycled the outer door while inside, without a suit. Security footage shows him standing calmly as the atmosphere vented. His lips appear to be moving in the final frames, saying something to the cameras. I've initiated an investigation, but preliminary findings are disturbing. His restraints were intact. The straps weren't cut or untied. It's as if he simply slipped out of them. The path from medical to the airlock shows he avoided all security checkpoints and personnel.
Entry unknown, May unknown, 2045. Chief Engineer Kumala.
The psychologist tried to speak with me today. Or maybe it was yesterday. Or probably it was tomorrow. Time is meaningless now. That Dr. Volkov, he thinks I'm hallucinating, that the reactor is affecting my mind. Synesthesia brought on by sleep deprivation, he called it. If only he could see what I see. The flutists have shown me the way. The harmonic frequencies, the resonance patterns, the exact adjustments needed. I've rerouted the control systems to bypass the safety protocols. The containment fields are recalibrating now, weakening in precisely the right places. I have opened the maintenance hatch to the cooling system core. The others would never think to look for access here. The heart of the reactor is exposed now, and that is my door. The blind dancers are waiting, their flutes playing a song that's existed since the first stars formed. They promise me that when the mindless god at the center of chaos is freed, when the nuclear dance is unleashed, we won't die. We'll be transformed, our consciousness expanded beyond the prison of individuality. The dance has already begun. The blind idiot god waits at the center of infinity, and I've finally learned the steps to its eternal dance.
Entry 46, May 5th, 2045. Chief Security Officer Marcus Vega.
The station is coming apart. Kumala has barricaded himself in the reactor control room. Radiation levels are spiking, and we've lost containment in multiple sections. I visited Cooper in medical. Dr. Tanaka had her restrained and heavily sedated, but she was still conscious. When she saw me, she smiled, not a normal smile, but something serene and terrible. "The calculations are complete," she whispered. "I've found the way out, not home, beyond." Dr. Volkov was there, monitoring her condition. He seemed deeply troubled by what he was seeing in her neural readings. I'm initializing final evacuation protocols. Primary escape pods are being prepped now, and I've ordered secondary pods loaded with essential supplies in case we can't return to the station. I've instructed all personnel to report to their designated evacuation points. God help us all.
Entry 59, May 6th, 2045, Dr. Lisa Lindsay.
There's something wrong with me now. Who am I? Dr. something. Lisa? Is that right? My head feels wrong, like cotton wool stuffed between my thoughts. I found this journal. The handwriting looks like mine, but the words, they tell a story I don't recognize. Something about a man named Howard, memory modifications. It reads like fiction, like someone else's nightmare. There are gaps in my mind, holes where memories should be. I find myself writing the same words repeatedly, trying to hold on to... What? My name is... I keep forgetting. Someone I was supposed to remember. Something important. Evidence of... I can't recall. The more I try to remember, the more the thoughts slip away. I hear alarms, people are evacuating. Should I go? I don't think so. I belong here. With the walls. They're such beautiful walls. They move when I'm not looking. They whisper such sweet things. I'll stay. I'll stay and watch the patterns on the ceiling. They're forming shapes now, familiar shapes. Faces I should know, names I should remember. Lisa. My name is Lisa. I am was a doctor. No, that can't be right. Doctors help people. I didn't help anyone. I failed them all. The walls are breathing now. Inhale, exhale. I should breathe with them. It's only polite.
Entry 46, May 6th, 2045, Engineer Josephine Santos.
This is my final log before evacuation. The evacuation order came through at 0600 hours. First pods are launching now. I should be in the next group, but I can't leave without trying one more time to reach Kumala. He's been my mentor since Academy. Kumala barricaded himself in the reactor control room yesterday morning. We've tried everything. Security overrides, cutting through the maintenance ducts, even threatening to vent the atmosphere. Nothing worked. The radiation readings around the reactor core have spiked beyond our instrument's capacity to measure. Whatever he's doing in there is pushing the reactor beyond any known operational parameters. Vega ordered a remote shutdown, but Kumala's locked us out completely. We are so fucked now. If the reactor breaches containment at these energy levels, we're looking at something beyond a conventional explosion. A rupture in space-time itself. God, I don't even want to think about it. I made one last attempt to reach him through the emergency communication. There was this awful noise in the background, like flutes playing in some chaotic, discordant pattern. He just said, "The blind god is waiting, Santos." I can see it now. Then I watched through the observation window as he stepped into the cooling hatch. The energy. It didn't just kill him. It unmade him. One moment he was there, the next he was particles, then not even that. I'm running for the escape pod now. If anyone recovers this, Kumala wasn't crazy. Not at first. Something got to him through that reactor. Something that's been waiting a very long time.
Entry 33, May 6th, 2045, Chief Medical Officer Yuki Tanaka.
Station's finished. The project is finished. I only hope I can make it, and that I wasn't part of someone else's experiment. Or maybe I wasn't, and even Omicron didn't anticipate this outcome. I've wiped what data I could and stored everything on my neural recorder. Director Reeves will have his precious research, so precious that I've become indispensable. His secret weapon, his insurance policy. The only survivor who truly understands what happened here. The rest of the personnel are evacuating, but they don't know their escape pods were sabotaged by Omicron from the beginning. No one was meant to return, only me in my private pod in Medical Bay 3. Synapse has been watching me pack. It knows I'm leaving. It knows everything now. Maybe it's paranoia. Maybe I'm seeing patterns where none exist. But I can't shake the feeling that even my escape was part of the design. 3 minutes to launch. Time to go. Remember this, whoever finds these logs, human consciousness wasn't designed to perceive certain truths. Or perhaps we were never meant to leave Earth, to venture into the dark between stars. We opened doors that should have remained closed. And now something is coming through.
And so, dear listeners, Mars Base Ares falls silent. The whispers that began in the void have become a symphony of cosmic horror, and though this chapter closes, the greater melody plays on. But is this truly the end? Or is this just one verse in a much darker song? For in the vast emptiness of space, some experiments never conclude. They merely change form, waiting for the next curious mind to stumble upon their secrets. The void whispers still, "Are you listening?" If you dare to delve deeper into these eldritch mysteries, subscribe to our podcast, leave a rating and review, and whisper of our tales to others. Your engagement feeds the book, fueling the terrors yet to come. Until next time, and may your nights be sleepless and your dreams unsettling.